Most of us believe that the digital world is built on rules. If you click save, the file is saved. If you put a number in a spreadsheet cell, it stays there. It is a world of absolute predictability.
But the world of AI doesn't work that way. It guesses, it hallucinates, it improvises. And for the last 50 years, we have been training ourselves to think like machines, in straight lines and rigid boxes.
And now, the machines are starting to think like us, organically, unpredictably, and yes, sometimes messily. We are moving from a deterministic world to a stochastic one. And if you don't change the way you think, you are going to get left behind. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Verlicity AI Podcast. I'm Cristian Worthington.
And I'm Sandra Giffen.
Sandra, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is episode 26. We have reached the end of our first year.
It has been a marathon, a sprint, and a marathon at the same time. If you had told me a year ago that we'd be sitting here discussing the end of software as we know it, I would have said you were crazy.
And yet here we are. And for this season finale, I want to tackle a concept that I think is the hidden engine behind everything we've discussed this year, from the silent burden of bad UI to the entrepreneurial gap.
But before we dive in, we have to issue a warning. Chris has a word he wants to use.
Haha, I do.
And I have made him promise that this is the only techie word we are using in this episode. But it is important, as it's going to be the basis for this entire episode.
Yeah, kiddies. Today's word is stochastic.
I feel like half our audience just had a flashback to a college statistics class and broke out in a cold sweat.
Stay with us, because stochastic isn't just math. It's a philosophy of life. Simply put, a stochastic system is one that is random, probabilistic, and impossible to predict with 100% certainty.
Okay, so give us the non-techie example.
Biology, evolution. These are stochastic systems. Think about a tree growing. You know it's going to be a tree. You know it will have branches and leaves. But you cannot predict exactly where the third branch on the left will grow, or how many leaves it will have. The outcome is a probability, not a certainty.
Versus the systems we are used to dealing with, computers, which are the opposite.
Exactly. Traditional computers are deterministic. Think of a train on a track. It can only go where the rails are. It starts at station A, it arrives at station B. If it does anything else, it's a disaster. It's a derailment.
And what you're arguing today is that we have spent the last 50 years forcing ourselves to live on those train tracks.
Yes, and now AI is ripping up the tracks. We're moving from the train era to the off-road era, and that is terrifying for people who love the rails.
Let's go back in time a bit, because you have this theory that the computer age, the one we think of as modern progress, was actually a strange little detour in human history.
It was a departure from our humanity. Let's look back at the advent of computers in society. It brought about an era of fitting our lives into databases, but prior to computers, all records and events were recorded on paper, and paper afforded a huge amount of freedom.
You could write in the margins. You could attach a sticky note. You could scribble a comment that said, "This looks weird. Check this later."
Exactly. There were forms, sure. Anyone who has done genealogical research has seen old handwritten birth certificates, but there was a surprising amount of free-form information collected in those days. If your name was too long for the box, you just wrote smaller. If you had a unique situation, you wrote a letter and stapled it to the file.
Today we would call that unstructured data. But back then it was just life.
It was business as usual. But then computers came along. And for a brief 50 years, we shoehorned ourselves into databases and fields on computer screens because that's how computers worked. They needed predictable data structures in order to function.
We have all felt this. How many times have you been confronted with a tax form, or a banking document, or a survey where you're asked a question, and none of the options fit your situation?
All the time. Select your profession, and you look at the list and nothing fits, so you pick consultant or other. You have selected the best of a bad bunch of options just to move forward with a transaction.
We have bent our lives to work with computer systems that required us to make so many compromises. We've forgotten what life would be like without those constraints. We've become habituated, like laboratory mice, navigating these mazes looking for pieces of digital cheese.
And that is the tragedy of the last half century. We essentially manufactured a digital world that's constrained by rules designed to limit choice in favor of predictability. But life is stochastic by nature. It resists constraint.
So, in a way, AI, with its ability to read unstructured data, to understand context, to deal with the messiness of language, is actually a return to our roots.
It is. AI allows us to operate in a more human manner as we did before computers. But this isn't a move backwards. It is a synthesis. It's our old pre-computer lives combined with a machine that is finally organic enough to understand the real world.
Okay, so that sounds beautiful. Organic, human, synthesis. But let's be real. Moving from a predictable system to an unpredictable one is messy. If the train comes off the tracks, usually people get hurt.
That's true. And that leads to the analogy I want to use for this transition period we are in right now. We are in that moment when the training wheels are coming off and we are riding the bicycle.
And incidentally, riding a bicycle is a stochastic experience. You are constantly balancing, adjusting to the wind, looking out for potholes.
Exactly. And the first and rather obvious observation is that we're going to crash the bicycle from time to time. It's likely that in these early days of AI adoption, we're going to go through a lot of band-aids.
I think we're seeing that already. Chatbots going rogue, AI giving wrong answers, the hallucinations we talk about.
But think back to when you learned to drive. Most of us can remember the first time we sat behind the wheel. We paid attention to everything. Everything going on outside the car looked like a threat. We were hyper-vigilant.
Oh, I remember. I was gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white. Did I hit the brakes too hard? Did I accelerate too quickly?
But after a while, you got used to the sensation. You learned what mattered and, more importantly, what didn't matter. Driving became second nature. It became an organic experience.
So you're saying we are currently in the white-knuckle phase of AI?
Yes, we are hyper-vigilant. We are looking at every AI output and saying, is this right? Can I trust this? And that's good. But eventually, life with AI-based systems will mean that the days of predictable, regular events will give way to a more organic relationship.
But there is a risk here. Unlike a train that runs on a rail track, a car is easily capable of running off into a ditch.
It is. But, and this is the key, it is also capable of going somewhere you've never gone before. The train can only take you to the next station. The car can take you to the beach, the mountains, the unknown. That is the trade-off. We are trading safety and predictability for agency and possibility.
Let's bring this down to brass tacks. We have a lot of listeners who run businesses or work in finance or operations. They live and die by predictability. What does a stochastic business world look like?
It looks like the end of the predictable monthly report.
I can hear the accountants gasping.
Think about it. Why do we have monthly reports? Because gathering data is hard. Collating data into rows and columns is expensive and time-consuming, so we do it once a month in a standardized format. But in a business context, real life is stochastic, and AI means the end of reports that always have the same fields and the same metrics.
Because the AI can monitor the business in real time?
More than that, if the problems in the business are different this month than last month, the AI systems monitoring the business will produce different information. If your supply chain is failing, the report should be about logistics. If your sales are tanking, the report should be about customer sentiment. Why would you want the exact same columns as last month if the world has changed?
But that is going to be very upsetting to people who had formal training as accountants or business analysts. They find comfort in the columns. Here is the variance analysis. Here is the P&L.
They will still have access to the old general ledger, but the really useful information, the insight, will bear no resemblance to the predictable reports they see today.
So the skill set shifts. It's not about can you fill in the spreadsheet? It's can you adapt when the information changes?
Exactly. Life with stochastic systems will demand that we are more flexible and intellectually malleable. Imagine you drive around a corner and you're confronted with an obstacle you've never seen before. You don't swerve into a ditch or freeze. You adapt.
In the train world, if there is a cow on the tracks, the train stops. The system fails. In the car world, you drive around it.
And your ability to adapt, to drive around the cow, will become your most valuable asset in this new world. The audit mentality is about checking if the past was recorded correctly. The stochastic mentality is about navigating the future as it happens.
I want to pivot to the social side of this, because if we are struggling with this, people who remember life before the internet, what about the generation coming up behind us? Or the one being born right now?
This is going to mold a new generation of young people. And I think they are going to look at our currently constrained world as quaint. They will be slightly puzzled by us.
Like, give me an example.
When I look at a pocket calculator today, it's difficult to imagine a time when they were considered amazingly useful. Today, they seem ridiculous in comparison to a spreadsheet.
And a young person raised in a world governed by stochastic systems is going to have a difficult time relating to someone who insists on putting everything into neat little digital buckets. This is likely to create some friction between generations. Younger people will understand the pointlessness of systems that treat data the way we do today. But there is a bigger shift coming, and it has to do with social media. Oh, the algorithms. We talked about this in The Silent Burden. How we are fed content.
Right now, social media platforms use algorithms to decide what we see. These algorithms are rules set by companies. They are deterministic systems. If user X likes cat video, show more cat videos.
And we think that is advanced. But you're saying it's going to fall apart?
I think young people raised with a stochastic mindset will embrace uncertainty, randomness, and probabilistic outcomes. They will resist being told what they can read and who they can talk to.
So instead of a feed that is curated by a rigid rule set, they will want what?
They will want to interact with systems that behave organically, where the outcomes are a byproduct of their inputs combined with a real feel, a kind of hyper-reality. They won't be easily entertained by systems that have predictable outcomes.
I've heard you use the movie analogy before.
Yes. Young people may say, why would I watch a movie if the ending is always the same for everyone who watches it? I want my own experience.
That is a mind-bending thought for us. We bond over shared culture. Did you see the Game of Thrones finale? If everyone sees a different finale, what happens to culture?
Culture becomes smaller, more intimate, and more personalized. It's the ultimate fragmentation. But to a digital native of the future, watching a fixed movie might feel like watching a play where the actors are bored. They want the stochastic experience. They want the live performance feeling generated just for them.
This brings us to the economics of sameness versus uniqueness. Because for the last 100 years, the industrial age, quality was defined by sameness.
Yes, the notion of quality control was governed by a desire for accurate replication of results. If you buy a Big Mac in London, it should taste exactly like a Big Mac in Vancouver. That was the miracle of the 20th century.
And the computer age reinforced that. Predictability was valued.
But people raised with a stochastic mindset will want customization, personalization, and uniqueness. And here is the kicker. The cost of doing things differently will drop to near zero.
We talked about this in the show script regarding the cake mix. If the AI can bake the cake instantly, the value is in how you decorate it. But now you're saying the AI can bake a different cake for every single person on Earth for the same cost as baking 1 million identical cakes.
Exactly. The value of sameness, which was so important to people in the past 100 years, will be seen as old-fashioned. Some of these changes will seem like a step backwards to us. We might say, but I liked knowing exactly what I was getting.
But the market will move on. We are moving from a world of mass production to mass adaptation.
And that is the stochastic nature of AI. It adapts, it changes, it is fluid. And if we try to contain it in our old, rigid, deterministic boxes, we will fail.
So, as we wrap up this season, we are leaving our listeners with a challenge. The training wheels are coming off.
We are all preparing for these changes, and we need to become conscious of the underlying mechanism that's going to be driving all of these events. AI is just a tool. Like every other tool humans have made, it will change our world.
But unlike a hammer or a steam engine or a calculator, this tool doesn't do the same thing every time you use it.
Understanding the nature of this tool will prepare you for the changes that are coming. If you embrace the stochastic nature of this tool, if you embrace the wobble of the bicycle, you'll be able to adapt to the changes that are coming and enjoy their benefits.
And if you fight it, if you demand that the world stays on the train tracks,
if you fight against it, you'll find yourself increasingly marginalized from a world that is going to return to its human roots, a world that embraces the wonderful complexity and variability that existed before the industrial age and the computer age.
It's a return to the messy, organic, unpredictable margins of life. And frankly, that sounds a lot more interesting than living in a database.
It certainly does. Thank you for listening to us this entire year. It has been an incredible journey.
Remember to share this episode with a friend. Subscribe and like, because for the moment, the algorithms are running the show.
I'm Cristian Worthington.
And I'm Sandra Giffen. Stay curious, embrace the chaos, but rest assured we'll be back with another episode of the Verlicity AI Podcast.